Hello, happy Feast of St. Joseph. Thanks for taking the time to view our weekly message. Last week, I shared a story from the first reconciliation retreat where the children played a game called the Pathway to Heaven. Some cards kept them moving straight toward heaven, while others led them off the path. But the card that said, "Go to confession," brought cheers from everyone in the room. In life, we're all on a journey to God. Sometimes we wander from the direct path to heaven, but God gives us the great gift of confession to help us get back on track. This past Saturday, March 14th, those same children celebrated the sacrament of reconciliation for the first time. As you might imagine, they were both excited and a little nervous. There was a beautiful sense of anticipation in the church as they prepared to encounter God's mercy in a new way. At the end of the celebration, we all shared their joy. During the first reconciliation prayer service, Monsignor McCormack proclaimed the Gospel of Luke, chapter 18, verses 9 to 14, the parable of the Pharisee and the tax collector. In his homily, Monsignor asked, "What's this I'm holding?" It was a mirror. Without hesitation, the child says, "Yeah, it's a mirror." Monsignor says, "Well, what do we use that for?" Another child said, "To look good." And then he asked, "Well, if you look in the mirror and something doesn't look right, what do you do?" And yet another child said, "You fix it." Well, Monsignor McCormack explained that the examination of conscience that we make before confession is like looking into a mirror. Like the tax collector, we look honestly at ourselves to see if anything is keeping our souls from looking their best. Sin can cloud the beauty God placed within us, thus preventing our souls from looking their best. When the mirror shows us something that needs attention, we don't ignore it like the Pharisee. We fix it by seeking God's mercy in the sacrament of reconciliation. When Monsignor shared the image of the mirror and suggested truthfully looking at our inner selves, something clicked for me. Since the confirmation retreat on February 21st, I've been thinking about an exercise that the retreat facilitator, John Paul Kasparowicz, did with the students preparing for confirmation. He asked them to identify obstacles that keep them from getting closer to Jesus, and to create a graffiti-style artwork showing whatever might block their path to God. At first, the students struggled to think of anything to write or to draw. So he said to them, "If your teacher at Holy Family Regional Catholic School or your prep catechist asked why you didn't get to Mass this weekend, what excuse would you give?" Well, that excuse, there's your obstacle. Well, that got the discussion flowing. One student mentioned sports. Then another said, "My parents." He explained that his parents don't take him to Mass. Many children depend on their parents for rides to many different places and to get to church. I asked him how often he actually asked his parents to take him to Mass. And he basically said, "Hey, they don't care, why should I?" Hearing that made me pause. What a powerful reminder for all of us, parents, grandparents, mentors, that the example that we set can help open the door to a relationship with God or quietly make that path harder to find. I found myself wondering how these parents might feel if they heard what their child said, that they were an obstacle to their child's relationship with God. It also led me to ask a more personal question of myself. What obstacles might I be placing between myself and God, and sadly, between others and God? Not every obstacle is a sin, But sometimes our choices or priorities can slowly pull us away from the Lord and lead us into sin. Once we recognize what may be standing in the way of a closer relationship with Jesus, we can begin to address it. Sometimes that means changing a habit or setting new priorities, making it easier to avoid sin. But when those obstacles involve sin, we need to bring them to the Lord in the sacrament of reconciliation and allow God to remove them through his mercy. Last week I mentioned that on Thursday evening, March 26th at 7 p.m., several priests from neighboring parishes will be here at St. Francis Cabrini to hear confessions. I want to extend that invitation again. Lent is a perfect time to hold up the mirror to our souls and allow God to restore us through his mercy. Whether it's been months or many years since our last confession, please know that God is always ready to welcome us with love and forgiveness. I hope that you take advantage of this opportunity for confession. And like our young parishioners who encountered God's great love in the sacrament of reconciliation for the first time this past Saturday, I hope that you can experience the peace and joy that comes from knowing that nothing stands between us and eternal happiness with God in heaven. May God continue to bless our St. Francis Cabrini Parish community. Have a blessed week.
God fills us with goodness and